What do you think, buddy?
Tiny.
It's tiny? So what do you think? Should I do it?
Yes.
Should we get it? You can go fly with me? Be fun.
You'll have equity in that deal, so whenever that property sells, you will get that original investment back.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to Millionaire Mafia. Well, today's going to be a little bit different from the usual real estate and life insurance and creating generational wealth and all that kind of stuff. It has to do with it because it's a byproduct of creating that wealth. But one thing that anybody that knows me knows that, and I've talked about it quite a bit on this channel, is I used to be a helicopter pilot for the Marine Corps. Flew over 4,000 hours, flew combat helicopters, Cobras, and then came back here to the Pensacola area where we now live, and I flew for the Marine Corps and taught new helicopter pilots for the Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard, as well as national service members from foreign countries, how to get their initial helicopter training and then get their wings of gold that they would then take back to their fleet squadrons and learn how to fly their fleet aircraft. So aviation is very near and dear to me. I loved it. I have a lot of experience. Most of it is in helicopters. Well, I don't want to let those skills atrophy. There are certain things that, like riding a bike, do kind of come back a little bit with time, but there's certain things that just, if you let them atrophy, you can get them back, but they just come really slow. And unlike riding a bike, flying a helicopter or flying an aircraft in general is very expensive. So the time and the cost of getting back into the groove is much more expensive, and it just gets more expensive and more expensive the further away you get from your currency. So I'm looking for me and for my family, because I want to teach my kids how to fly. It's a unique skill set that a lot of people do have, but very few people can teach the level that I can. And I want to teach my kids how to fly. For that reason, I am looking for an aircraft to buy. That is my 2022 goal, is to own an aircraft. Whether that is a part of an aircraft, i.e. not like a wing or a tail, but fractional ownership of one, which a lot of people do. Like I own half, the other guy owns the other half, and then we fly it together and operate it and maintain it and all that kind of stuff. We took a trip down to Fort Myers. We go there every year for Thanksgiving to visit my aunt and uncle. And on the way, basically right off the highway is a place called Jasper, Florida. And there was a helicopter that I found out there that I wanted to go check out. It was what is called an experimental helicopter. We'll talk a little bit about what the aircraft is and what kind of aircraft it is in the video, but basically it's not the kind of these big, heavy, high-tech aircraft that I'm used to flying. So it was different. And I'm not going to say which way I went with it, whether I decided to take it and buy it or whether I didn't. But I'll let you guys check it out, and then I'll catch you guys on the backside and do a quick little debrief. All right, check it out. So I got the whole family here. We're all heading down to Fort Myers. We go down there every year to spend time with my aunt and uncle, spend a week there, relax, and go see manatees and all that kind of stuff. But on the way down, I have coordinated a test flight on an experimental helicopter called a Safari. This one doesn't have a numerical designation per se, but it is serial number 001. Like, it's one and only of its kind. Most of these aircraft have no skin on it, kind of the open frame design where you can see the bars, kind of like the old Bell 47s they used back in Vietnam and Korea and stuff like that. The first ones, the bubble canopy. So that's this design, and that's generally what it's got: the engine, the transmission, drivetrain, the rotors, and everything like that. But those all have skids, but this one has wheels. So again, another modification. Found it just randomly on Facebook. Called the guy up. We talked for a little bit. He's a really cool dude. So I said, hey, I'll come and check it out. He got a funny story. He picked the thing up. He's not a pilot. He's been around pilots, but anybody who's flown a helicopter knows that you don't just pick it up and go to town. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there of guys that don't know what they're doing that try and say, oh, I can do this, and then they're a smoking hole. So you know, we're not going to do it today, but what today is going to be is I'm going to show you the kind of the pre-flight, show you the aircraft itself, which will be interesting, the run-up, the kind of basically taking it through a mini test where I you know, run it up, run it through the numbers, check all the P's and T's, see how the power, how the transmission, everything responds, and then maybe we'll go flying a little bit. I do know it has flown, so it flies. We just got to see how well it flies and see how comfortable I am with it. Right now, the asking price is $25,000, which is super cheap, which also kind of concerns me a little bit. But anyway, I'm gonna test that out today. I'll show you guys what it's like, and hopefully I don't record myself crashing an aircraft. So we'll see. See you guys in a little bit. All right, I see the helicopter. Oh man, what are we getting into? There it is. I wonder if that's what he puts it on. All right, so right here, just showing up. First thing you want to do when you go up to an aircraft is kind of do a walk around. So right now we've already done the kind of the normal walk around where you're just looking to make sure nothing major has fallen off the aircraft. It's got 2 main rotor blades, it's got 2 tail rotor blades, it's got 3 wheels in this case, you know, no cracks in the canopy, all that kind of stuff. And then we go into opening up panels. What we're opening up right here is the what we call the number, well, there's only one engine, but you call it the number 1 side, and the other side would be the number 2 side, or port and starboard in the Navy, or starboard on the right and port on the left. But anyway, what we're looking there is the engine, transmission, the bottom part of it there. That's the or the oil cooler down at the bottom there. Right there, looking in the cockpit, just at a couple gauges. And then one of the first things you do, the pilots actually will do the fuel sampling. And so in this aircraft, there's 3 ports. There's one on the right or starboard side. There's another one on the port side, and there's one up in the front. Right here, he's looking at the fuel valve. He had to open it up to allow the fuel to actually come out. But what you're checking for is sediment and water in the fuel, because that's obviously a contaminant, and you want to make sure that's not going to you know, cause the engine to have issues. We're opening up the port side, or what we would call the number 2 side in the Marine Corps, looking for the spark plugs. This is a carbureted engine, so this is not a turbine engine like I'm used to flying. You know, we want to make sure that the wheels, since we do have wheels and not skid, they got good tread on them. Check the brakes, check the calipers, all that kind of stuff. Just making sure the structural integrity is there. And then we move from the forward half of the aircraft to the rear. We're looking at the drive shaft of the for the tail rotor, and that is literally what is connecting your tail rotor, which is your anti-torque. So when you pull power and the collective to make the main rotor turn, you have to have counter torque due to the for the aircraft. So this is what powers it, that drive shaft there. So we're looking at the Elt antenna right there. The Elt is not actually installed. I was kind of musing right there grabbing that thing, that is a really skinny looking drive shaft, even compared to what I was used to flying with in the 57. So I was just kind of like, ooh, it's skinny. But you know, small aircraft, not a whole lot to it. It's got a Lycoming 0320 engine, so that's got 160 horsepower, a lot less than even the small Bell 206. So looking at the tail rotor there, making sure that all the linkage is there, the cross tubes and things like that. It's a little bit different. Actually, it's a lot different. We got push-pull tubes in every aircraft I've flown. You can see those 2 cables right there are literally like a pulley system that's set up, which is a little bit different, and to me seems a little bit janky, but that's just how it is in these small experimentals. This is the oil case, so the gear box for the tail rotor, which is very small. I'm talking about, you know, right there, how do you get the oil in there, and he was kind of explaining to me. So pretty simple, pretty basic system right there. That tail rotor right there, though, with the links looks very similar to any other aircraft as you go up, you know, obviously for the ones that I'm used to flying. Now we're looking at the main rotor, working our way up. I'll be climbing up on the top of the aircraft in a second, not via ladder, but we're checking the integrity of the blades there, looking for any dents that we don't know about, any warping or misshaping of the blades, to make sure that those are good, so when they start biting in the air, they get a good, you know, good solid flow of air, and that they're, you know, not gonna, they're in balance and they're gonna track true, and the aircraft won't tear itself apart. So now we're looking at all linkage. There's the various tubes and the control tubes that will spin. They will rotate. These are the rotating components. As the helicopter spins, those will spin, and there's a swash plate down below it. Swash plate. I sound like Sean Connery there. And when you move the controls inside the aircraft, the swash plate will actually move and then allow those rotating components to move accordingly. And now we're looking at the cooling. You can see those fins. So, and that cools the engine and the transmission in this aircraft. And then I just found a little wasp nest in there. That's what I was pulling out there. Now we're going in and we're talking about the various buttons on the collector or cyclic. And actually, one of the buttons actually starts on the cyclic, which is unique because I'm used to doing that either on the collective or on a switch in a different position. But usually it's on the collective in our aircraft. So it's just something we were talking about. And there's a primer. Just think of like a weed eater or something like that that requires you have to prime the thing to get the fuel in there. So we've primed it and we're hopping in, closing the canopy. And the first thing I notice here is what I'm talking about with him is damn with these pedals. So look at my knees. I look like a little kid in a little Tonka toy there. I'm 6 foot. I'm not a big guy, but those pedals right there, they're not adjustable. They're moving, but normally you would be able to move those forward because you can see how my toes are super far extreme, and I'm kind of talking about it right here. Normally my feet would be way more forward on the in the aircraft, so I can work with my toes on the pedals versus having my heels off the ground and having to work with my big muscles in my leg. So right here we're going over the P's and T's, the different temperature, pressure gauges, manifold pressure. Right here we're looking at the dual tach, which is the engine speed and the transmission speed. That's what that is. And then here it's just like a car. Here, there's the key. Turn it on, and then put the mixture into rich, so we give it some gas, and then it's literally just hit the button. Put my my harness on, which I really don't think that would have stopped anything from me going anywhere, but it was more of a mental thing. You can see me there, and with the reflection, you can see me messing with the twist grip there. And now I hit the starter. Blades are moving. It was instantaneous. It was super smooth. Temperatures for the engine, that's what we're looking at right there, making sure those temperatures are within limits, which they were. And then it gets started up, and we're watching the NR and the N1 come up, so the engine speed and the transmission speed, and we're looking at the fuel, things like that. So we're just kind of checking, kind of getting familiar with the gauges and with the instrumentation and all that kind of stuff. And you know, so far I'm feeling pretty good, not thinking a whole lot about it. And then I'm looking out, working the tip path plane. You'll see my hand in the reflection there, moving the cyclic. I'm checking the authority that I have, the full range of the cyclic, to make sure that I can move it around. At this point, I was hitting a little bit more of a stop on my right side than I was really wanting, and this is where I was starting to get a little bit uncomfortable with moving beyond just sitting there idling or going full open, and then kind of just taxiing forward. So you'll see here in a minute something kind of funny happens. See the aircraft moving, and we just start going. That was not intentional. I was messing around with the controls, and I didn't realize that the collective had basically worked itself up a little bit, and so we started moving unintentionally. So you got to keep your hand down and everything. So here's where we started just playing around with taxiing. So we just added a little twist grip, brought it full open, and then added a little collective, and we're moving around. And I'm using the pedals kind of to direct which way we're turning. You see we're not going that far, not going that fast. We're on grass. It's relatively flat, but again, not something I'm used to. Being from the skids, we don't typically just kind of move along like that a whole lot. And so this is where I was like, man, I really want to take off. I want to put this thing into a hover. I felt kind of good. And then you see we're taxiing here, and then I was like, okay, well, let's go ahead. You can't hear the conversation. Let's go ahead and pull this thing into a hover. All right. So I'm wanting to do that, but I'm pulling in collective, and my right arm is all the way on my right thigh, the inside of my right thigh. I can't go anymore. I'm literally at the stop. And so I was like, man, when I pick up in the air, it's only going to get worse. I'm going to have to put in more right cyclic, and I have no more to go. So I'm worried about the aircraft actually tipping over on the left, which is called dynamic rollover. So that was really concerning me. And so at that point is where I decided, I said, you know what? I don't feel comfortable. We're going to go ahead and kill this thing. You know, I'm just going to have to kind of think about this. So we chopped the fuel there, and that was kind of the day. All right, so obviously it didn't exactly go as planned, but when does anything in aviation ever go that way? I learned a lot on this trip. The big things is ergonomically, man, you got to be super comfortable in an aircraft, and I wasn't. I didn't feel comfortable picking up an aircraft, and I didn't want to be that smoking hole that I talked about in front of my family because they were all there, but also right before a vacation, right? That's what you do on the backside of vacation after you had all your fun, right? Then you go to the hospital. No, but seriously, it wasn't for me. It wasn't a good fit. It didn't feel right. And one thing that I've learned through all my years in aviation, and this applies to not just aviation, but in the real world, whether you're driving a car, whether you're getting into a business, whether you're getting into a partnership with somebody else, you got to pass the sniff test. Does it look right, feel right, smell right? And if it doesn't, then you got to, at a minimum, go back to the drawing board and kind of figure out where you're at and then move forward. So I decided to pass on this particular aircraft, and it was a good experience. It was good to see, kind of what I don't want, and also learn some of the things that I do want. But one of the other things I kind of learned from this was that I really don't think a helicopter is right for me and my family right now, as much as I want one. I mean, if I could afford to just go out and just buy a Bell 206, which is what I just came from flying, yeah, in a heartbeat, I would do it. But the maintenance required, the cost to purchase, and like I said, maintain and operate these aircraft is just probably at least 5 to potentially 10 times more expensive than a fixed-wing aircraft on an hour-by-hour basis, which is significant. And then even if you can afford the cost, the maintenance time is down for longer. More things to break. There's a lot of moving parts. So for me, I want something that's reliable. It's going to go up, and I can go and fly it almost like you would go out and drive a boat or drive a car. So as much as I would like to own a helicopter, I've decided, kind of talked with Katie and kind of re-looked at what I'm looking to get out of this aircraft, which to me, right, I'm cool with the Southeast. I don't need to go that far. A few hundred miles, maybe 500 miles tops. And on a bag of gas in a lot of these aircraft, I can get there no problem. We've decided to go with a Cessna 172 or equivalent aircraft. So it's basically going to be a 4-seat aircraft. It has about 160 to 180 horsepower, depending on the type of aircraft you're looking at. It's a high wing. I prefer the high wing for visibility and also safety, because it's very, very difficult to get them in a bad situation. And they're very readily available. Just Cessna 172s, they've made like almost 50,000 of these things over the years. So there's tons of them out there. It's a great starter plane. You can rent them out or lease them out to flight schools while you're not using them. So you can either break even or potentially even make money on these things and have a lot of the maintenance handled. So that's what I'm going to be looking into. I actually have a buddy who owns several airplanes. He actually owns 6, and he just recently bought 2 Cessna 172s. He bought a Mike variant, which you can see up here, and then he bought a Papa variant right here. They've both got the Lycoming 0320 160 horsepower engine. So they, not the 180s, the Lycoming 360s, but pretty decent, significantly better than the 300. And one of them's even got a constant speed prop, which means that it will adjust based off of your airspeed, right, to be more efficient. So I will be probably not getting those until closer till spring, because he's got some stuff that he's working on. So probably going to kind of put a pause on actively looking for aircraft. I might passively, if something comes my way and it's just a killer deal, I might act on it. But around the springtime, right around my birthday in April, is when I'll be kind of getting ready to go grab this thing. And when that happens, I'm gonna put you guys in the front seat with me, both on the inspections, the acquisitions of the aircraft, of actually inspecting the aircraft and looking it around and test flying it, stuff like that, but also to kind of encompass the millionaire part is the how am I going to fund this thing? How am I going to use cash? Am I going to use a bank? If I use a bank, who am I going to talk to? What kind of loan product is it versus a house or a car or a boat? How does that work? And I want to bring you guys in there so when you get to that level, if this could be, I think, potentially really helpful for those types of people. And if you're looking for one just to buy, if you get to that level where you can just buy one and hire a captain or whatever, this is a great thing for you guys to learn as well. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Sorry you didn't see me get up and screw around in the actual helicopter. We did move it, as you saw in the video, and honestly, we got light on the skids and the thing started moving a little bit. I don't know if that actually got caught in that video, but it was nerve-wracking. I have not been that nervous in a helicopter, in an aircraft period, in a long time. And I've done some pretty crazy stuff. Nothing that I'll admit to, but I've done some pretty crazy stuff in aircraft, and that made me more uncomfortable than a lot of that stuff. So that's saying something. Anybody who knows me or flew with me know that I was very comfortable with being uncomfortable. So I was not feeling good. And so for me to call knock it off on this one is it's up there on the stress test. So I wish I could have done it. I really wanted to. I was disappointed a little bit in myself at first, but then I realized I made the right decision. And if you learn nothing else from this video, is no matter how much you want something, no matter how disappointing something can be, if it's not right, if it's not safe for you physically or emotionally or spiritually or financially, don't do it. Don't do it. You can eventually go back and reattack, but reset, step back, think logically, think objectively, and be dispassionate about it, and then go execute either the same thing via a different way, or go ahead and execute a completely different course of action, because maybe that one just isn't viable. If you got any questions about buying an aircraft, about what kind of aircraft I'm looking at, why I'm looking at it, if you're looking at getting into aviation and training in the beginning, I can talk to you about some of those kind of things, what you want to look for, general expenses, and potentially give you some tips and tricks on saving yourself a lot of money up front or during the process while you time build, because it can be very expensive and time consuming. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I promise you'll see me go airborne. I can't guarantee you what aircraft it is, but you're going to see that soon, and I can't wait to show you guys. Until next time, here's to your wealth.